That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams, your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled regardless of your medical conditions as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network. WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM. Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
This is...
Breast cancer touches millions of lives. Hi, this is Candy O'Terry inviting you to join me on Tuesday evening, October 15th at Newton Wellesley Hospital for their free conversation series. Hear from leading experts, radiation oncologist Theodore Hong, breast surgeon Michelle Specht, and nursing officer Jane Keefe. That's Tuesday, October 15th at Newton Wellesley Hospital. Register today. NWHevents@partners.org. That's NWHevents@partners.org.
This is Tucker Silva with the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke, a partner with the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with a master's in taxation. And today we're talking about choosing beneficiaries for your IRA. Todd, what is the best way to deal with qualified retirement plan assets, and can they be transferred to these irrevocable Medicaid trusts?
So this is a tough asset. In general, when you're dealing with retirement plan assets, it's difficult from an estate planning standpoint or a Medicaid planning standpoint to deal with them. Why? Because they have both an income tax component and an estate tax component, right? They're taxable when you take them out, and when you die, they're subject to your estate tax. So the general way to do this would be, one, you can name the spouse as the beneficiary of the IRA, or you can name the kids the beneficiary of the IRA, or sometimes you can name the trust the beneficiary or the estate the beneficiary. But it all depends on the size of your estate, the size of the IRA. But the one thing you really can't do is you can't take the asset and transfer it to the irrevocable trust or revocable trust while you're living. Otherwise, it will create a income taxable event. So tough to plan for those in advance unless you name the estate the beneficiary.
Educate yourself about the estate planning process. Request your free copy of Todd's brand new guide called Why Name Your Estate an IRA Beneficiary right now by calling 866-848-5699. That's 848-5699, or you can request a copy from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Every single day, more than 2,000 U.S. companies face a cyber threat or attack. The Boston Red Sox in Fenway Park chose Centripetal as their official cyber network security partner to ensure the protection of their network and ballpark. Intelligence is the answer to protecting your network, and Centripetal is the global leader of intelligence-powered cybersecurity. The choice is yours. Are you going to be another one of those attacked companies? Or are you ready to experience a radical new cybersecurity solution? Find out why the Red Sox chose Centripetal at www.centripetal.ai.
This Veterans Day weekend, help honor all who have served this country. Join us on Saturday, November 9th for the 9th Annual Disabled American Veterans 5K Boston, proudly presented by Veterans Development Corporation. It's a run and walk to support the DAV Department of Massachusetts. Saturday, November 9th at DCR's Castle Island in South Boston. Let's honor all who have sacrificed for our freedom. Register or donate now at dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
We are the Debt Destroyer Network. Any debt you have, credit card, tax, student loan debt, call now for free information that helps you destroy your debt. It's great advice. Plus, when you make this free call now, we have Debt Destroyer experts ready to help. They can show you how to destroy your debt and get your life back on track. Debt problems don't have to be overwhelming. You can live stress-free and debt-free. credit cards, medical bills, IRS tax problems, even student loan debt. Learn about free programs offered by the credit card companies, hospitals, and even the government that can help slash your debt. Call the Debt Destroyer now for free information. Call now. 800-430-8804. 800-430-8804. 800-430-8804. Again, that's 800-430-8804.
As a busy mom, my to-do list is full.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
Visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting DAV5K.Boston and making a donation today. The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you here, and a lot to get to today, so we're going to get right into it. Starting with some economic data that we got earlier this morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Couple different reports. One, a monthly report on inflation, the Consumer Price Index data. Another one, a weekly report for initial jobless claims and continuing jobless claims. Mike, which one of these do you want to start with?
Let's go with the inflation report. A little bit more rare out there, and we did receive it at 8:30 this morning, and markets didn't seem to love it, although nothing detrimental in here. But headline numbers, 2.4% year over year in terms of price increases, 0.2% on the month-over-month level. If you strip out that volatile food and energy, which has been a drag on overall prices, especially on the gasoline and energy side of things, if you strip those pieces out, the year-over-year numbers are coming in at 3.3% and 0.3% month-over-month, which is not the Fed's goal. It's not where the Fed has targeted and wants to be. And so, to some degree, questioning, again, the direction of the Fed and what this means for the next two meetings. What were the highlights in your mind?
So I think if you look through this, and again, we don't have all of the data yet, just because there are some groups like the Cleveland Fed. They put together what's called median inflation and trimmed mean. That usually comes out a little bit later in the day. So we don't have everything that I like to look through at this point. But when we look at some of the key pieces that I think are important here, you want to be saying, okay, like, where is this actually coming from? Like, what is causing this, and is it just one thing that is spiking, or is it something that's more broad-based? So the first thing that I look at is, okay, is this coming from shelter? Just because the cost of shelter in CPI has been something where, even as home prices have leveled off over the course of this year, that cost of shelter component has continued to move up. So you say, okay, is it just this? Well, no, shelter printed 0.2% for the month. It was actually the best number that we've seen since June. So the last 2 months were a little bit higher.
Solid.
And so you sit there and you say, look, it's not shelter that's causing this. What else could it be? Is it gas prices? Well, no, we know it's not, because headline is lower than core, which tells you it's not gas prices. And the fall of gas prices in September was picked up here, with gas prices falling 4.1% over the course of the month, according to the CPI data. So it's not some of those narrow things where you say, gee, is this what's causing the problem here? Instead, it does at first glance appear to be kind of a broadening out, where some of the areas that previously had shown a little bit of improvement, maybe backsliding a little bit. Places like transportation services printing 1.4% month over month. That is the hottest one that we've seen since March of this year, I believe. And so, that's something where if you try to figure out, okay, what goes into transportation services, it's motor vehicle insurance, which continues to be hot, printing 1.2% this month and 16.3% year over year. That's something that goes into it. Other things, motor vehicle maintenance and repair. Airline fares bouncing back for the last couple months after dropping throughout, the early part of the summer. Those items moving up. So, again, you kind of sort through this, and overall, this isn't a report it's not bad. It's not something where you say, oh, gee, like we're going back to 2022. But it is something where you say, hey, we still are seeing inflation floating around, or at least core inflation, floating around a higher level than is comfortable. And it's largely being pushed up by, a few key areas, such as auto insurance. But you can't just say, well, if we strip out auto insurance, it'll be fine, because auto insurance is going up and everything else is still printing where it is. So I think overall this is a report where if you're grading it, it's a C+. It's like, okay, this is kind of like the minimum threshold that we have now for a report being okay, but really you need to do better than this. And if you start printing this over and over, which, look, we got 2 months now where we've had a report like this, that starts to get into a position where it's not okay, because it's indicative of an economy that, hey, once fuel prices stop falling, which they won't go down 15% year over year forever, once that stops, then you're in a position where you're saying, hey, now inflation is, bottoming out close to 3.25% year over year, and that's not where you want to be. We've talked about how you're not going to get down to 2 because inflation basically has never averaged 2. But you got to get down into that 2.5% range on core, and you're just not there, and that's the problem here. So, yeah, I look at this, and I might even downgrade from like a C+ to a C. It's just this is like the bare minimum of what you can do right now, in my opinion.
Chuck, put this in the context of a few things with me for a moment. So we had the jobs report for September that came out hotter than expected. We now have this inflation report, which, again, very slightly hotter than expected, but hotter than expected. And then combine that with, I'm sure you've read through some of the meeting minutes and commentary from the Fed, which seem to have indicated that while most voting members voted for the 50 bip cut, they might have been fine with a 25 basis point instead, and there was a fair bit more debate about that than I think all of us were previously truly aware. Contextualizing all that, I mean, where does it put the Fed for these next 2 meetings? Are the 25 basis point cuts that are almost a certainty being priced into markets actually a certainty in reality here?
I don't think there's any danger of those cuts not happening, just because, look, there clearly has been a deceleration in the labor market that is concerning to the Fed, and one jobs report doesn't put that to bed.
Sure.
That's not something where you don't just look at that and say, well, everything's fine now, we don't need to deal with this. I think the inflation data that we have been getting, and even the other growth data that we've been getting, it takes off the table additional 0.5% cuts through the end of this year. And the reason I'm confident enough to say through the end of this year, which I know there's only 3 months to go, but a lot can change in 3 months still, we're not going to be getting any data that tells us anything useful about the labor market for at least a couple months. It's going to be messy. So if you don't know which way the labor market is moving, the best thing that you can do is assume it's moving in a fashion similar to what it was before the distortion showed up, because the labor market tends to have an awful lot of momentum. And so I think that in looking at this, I think you're fairly locked in now for 0.25% cuts at the November and December meetings. And then as you get out to January, maybe you start to get a sense of where things are at that point in the economy. But it's going to be tough between the impacts from these 2 hurricanes. You're just not going to have a great understanding of exactly what's going on in the labor market, because there are such big disruptions to normal patterns of how businesses operate throughout much of the Southeast now.
Yeah, I think the only thing that could disrupt me from that path that the Fed seems to be on would be really robust hiring that proves out in the October and November jobs reports, which we'll see in early November and early December. Like, that would be surprising given the context of these hurricanes, and therefore make you really question, okay, are we about to see some sort of wage spike here? That might toss me off that path.
And it would be kind of hard to understand where that impulse for this massive hiring would come from.
Right. Right, like in the context of a giant storm that has wiped out a good portion of the southeastern United States in terms of the ability to hire, you'd have to look at that and really say, wow, this is surprising. And quite frankly, kind of unlikely.
Just glancing through the CPI, I always like to look at just individual items just to see any big changes for the month, just because it's kind of fun to do. It's not really representative of anything useful, but it's kind of cool. Mike, did you know that the price of lettuce fell 3.2% in September?
Thank God.
I know that the Caesar salads are going to be so affordable now.
Indeed.
It's going to be wonderful. On the other hand, if you are looking at apples, apple price is up 2.4% for the month. Not ideal heading into actually, apple picking season's just about wrapped up right now. Other things that we're seeing in terms of, again, just big movers that are out here on a monthly basis. Men's suits up 2.4% for the month. It costs more to look good now, Mike.
Ooh, did you see eggs?
No. What are eggs doing? How are the chickens?
I'm looking here, and unless I'm misreading this, I'm seeing August to September egg prices up 10%. That's not good.
Interesting. Oh, well, there has been the whole bird flu thing that's been floating around.
Okay.
Seems like every couple of years now we go through a bird flu, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's just fact of life. College textbooks up 4.2%. That's not great. Okay, this is just I get what they're doing here. There's one of the subsets of categories under what's the broad category that this is under here? Let's see. They have an alcoholic beverages segment. Whiskey at home, which again, I guess they're surveying me, so you're welcome. Down 2.4% for the month. So the whiskey is cheaper.
There we
so
go.
You've got that going for you at least. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about what we saw in weekly jobless claims. A lot of changes going on, some hurricane-related, some that are a little bit more questionable. We'll try to unpack all that when we return.
Get up-to-the-minute market updates with Wall Street Watch, weekdays at 10:30, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This Veterans Day weekend, help honor all who have served this country. Join us on Saturday, November 9th for the 9th Annual Disabled American Veterans 5K Boston, proudly presented by Veterans Development Corporation. It's a run and walk to support the DAV Department of Massachusetts. Saturday, November 9th at DCR's Castle Island in South Boston. Let's honor all who have sacrificed for our freedom. Register or donate now at dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Breast cancer touches millions of lives. Hi, this is Candy O'Terry inviting you to join me on Tuesday evening, October 15th at Newton Wellesley Hospital for their free conversation series. Hear from leading experts, radiation oncologist Theodore Hong, breast surgeon Michelle Specht, and nursing officer Jane Keefe. That's Tuesday, October 15th at Newton Wellesley Hospital. Register today. NWH Events at partners.org. That's NWH Events at partners.org.
Naming your estate the beneficiary of an IRA or life insurance policy can offer significant benefits to your overall planning. Cushing & Dolan's new monthly guide will help you understand why beneficiary designations are a critically important part of your estate plan, especially if you want your assets to be distributed efficiently and protected from probate or the nursing home. They can also reduce the possibility of creating any income tax issues on your required minimum distributions. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and ask for their new guide called Why Name Your Estate an IRA Beneficiary. There's nothing more important than protecting your assets and providing lifelong comfort for your family. Call today at 866-848-5699. That number again is 866-848-5699. or you can request the guide online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
To fully maximize your Social Security benefits, it's important to understand how Social Security may affect your taxes. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and when deciding to collect Social Security benefits, it's essential to consider how those benefits interact with your other income sources, your tax situation, and your long-term financial goals. As an example, if you have tax-free or after-tax options in retirement, you can structure your financial plan to manage your future tax burden. Collecting Social Security too early without careful planning could limit your ability to manage taxes later in life. Our new free guide is called Social Security and Taxes, and it unpacks these issues and more. Get your free copy today by calling 800-393-4001. That's 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Like us on YouTube and get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange has built an incredible partnership with the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We can't wait to take part in this year's DAV 5K set for Saturday, November 9th at Fort Independence on Castle Island. You can help our great American heroes by walking, running, or simply making a donation. Your gifts will support services such as the Veteran Advancement Program, which offers permanent and affordable housing opportunities for veterans and their dependents. Time is running out. If you want to take part, so head to dav5k.boston and secure your spot today. The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation.
Mike, let's talk a little bit about what we saw from this morning's unemployment claims release. 8:30 a.m. we get both initial claims and continuing claims. And on the initial side, we saw a jump of 33,000 claims up to 258,000 on a weekly basis. Continuing claims moving up as well from about 1.82 million to 1.86 million. The continuing claims number I'm not really going to address right now just because I don't think it's the most relevant. It's been just kind of bouncing around this area for a while. But let's talk a little bit about this initial claims jump because normally you see a jump of 30,000 claims in a week. And again, even though it's just 1 week of data, you still say, oh, that's interesting because if we continue to see those kinds of jumps, it points towards the kind of labor market weakness that we've really been nervous about happening, which is more layoffs happening and not just a slowing labor market, but one in which layoffs are starting to pick up. This week, though,
throw it out.
I don't know that you throw it out because I went through the state-level data in order to figure out, hey, how much of this can you attribute to Hurricane Helene coming through and how much of it is related to just whatever's going on in the economy. Here are the biggest jumps that we saw percentage-wise, okay? Like California, yes, it had 4,000 more initial claims than the prior week.
Sure.
But California also has a baseline of 40,000 claims, so it's a 10% jump, and those things can revert and change pretty quickly. So I'm not looking at this from a number of claims perspective, but hey, which states saw the biggest percentage change in claims? And here's what we saw. The biggest one that I found was North Carolina, which saw its jobless claims go up by 8,000 claims. And that is now at a level, it ended up at a total of just shy of 12,000 claims. So claims almost quadrupled for the week. Mike, how much of that is because the North Carolina economy is weakening significantly, and how much of it is because they just got hit with a massive hurricane and a bunch of people have finally dug out enough to start claiming unemployment?
I would guess most of it on the hurricane side of things, but I suppose it could be both, but I have no evidence that North Carolina's economy is weakening. So I'm going mostly on the hurricane. And by the way, I don't think that everybody had time to file for unemployment.
Other ones that I think fall into a similar boat. Florida, 4,000 initial claims, now at 1.8 times the prior week. Again, that whole Panhandle, Big Bend area got hit by Hurricane Helene as well. I think there's a very reasonable story there. Same with Tennessee. The eastern part of the state got hit by the hurricanes. South Carolina in the same boat. Kentucky as well. So I think that all of those are explainable by saying, hey, Hurricane Helene came through a couple weeks ago. The first week, people just spent digging out and making sure they could have, basic things like water and electricity and things like that. And now they're finally filing for unemployment. I think that that's an understandable way to look at it. Is that fair?
Yep.
One that didn't make sense to me, and I can't really sort out what's going on here. Actually, two of them. Michigan saw its weekly claims more than double, and Ohio saw its claims double.
Can't explain
and
either.
I can't make heads or tails of that because Michigan and Ohio, even if you look at the very southeastern part of Ohio, they weren't heavily impacted by Helene.
How about Washington State, where the Boeing strikes have been going on?
You've got an uptick there, claims jumping by about 30% week over week, so that makes sense, about 1,700 additional initial claims.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to figure out, is there any... Michigan and Ohio, I know that this is the time of year where occasionally you get some retrofitting of auto plants for the upcoming model year and stuff like that, so maybe there was some of that that's going on and this is just going to fade back there. But those are data points where I say, okay, let me pay attention to that in the next couple weeks and see if it reverts back to prior levels or if this shows some continuation. Other than that, you look at it and... Look, claims I think are certainly on the not seasonally adjusted metrics. They're moving up throughout much of the country. Just counting in terms of the number of states where you actually had a decrease here, it's only a handful. Maybe 8 to 10. But this is also the time of year where the non-seasonally adjusted numbers start to tick up as you head into the end of the year, and you get this big rise in non-seasonally adjusted claims at the end of the year because all of the seasonal workers that get hired for the holiday shopping period, they all start getting laid off as you get into late November and early December, actually. That's the period where that starts to pick up.
Yeah, the 250,000 people hired from Amazon don't need to be there in late December.
No, we've talked about how the bulk of Christmas shopping now, it happens before December 10th. And so you see these layoffs that pick up as you head into the end of the year. So I think that my read on this weekly claims number is, hey, you can't take a ton from it, but up is still not good regardless. It still is something where, hey, the number of claims went up, and that still tells you something about where the economy is going to be, because if those people aren't working, then they're not producing whatever economic activity they did, and so it tells you something about where the economy is going. And Connor Sen, who we read his Bloomberg stuff and we cover it on the air sometimes, he's got a good saying on this, which is, look, doesn't matter what happened, up is up. And I know that sounds kind of dumb, but it's kind of where I land on this.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's not something we should completely ignore, but it'd be more surprising than not, given the strikes plus the storms, the hurricanes, that we won't see an up. It would be more surprising if we didn't see an uptick over last week and the next few. And like we've talked about before, it's not that you should throw it out, but you won't really get a good picture until weeks or months after the fact.
Let's take a quick break here as we head towards the bottom of the hour. But when we come back, talk a little bit about the Federal Reserve. It's been a couple weeks since their jumbo rate cut, and we'll tell you all about what they had to say during the Fed meeting minutes right after this.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Let's talk LDL. AKA bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. Because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
Congress is poised to pass a bill to keep AM radio in cars. But time is running out. 82 million Americans risk losing the news, sports, talk, traffic, and vital emergency information they rely on. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress to pass this bill now.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Naming your estate the beneficiary of an IRA or life insurance policy can offer significant benefits to your overall planning. Cushing & Dolan's new monthly guide will help you understand why beneficiary designations are a critically important part of your estate plan, especially if you want your assets to be distributed efficiently and protected from probate or the nursing home. They can also reduce the possibility of creating any income tax issues on your required minimum distributions. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and ask for their new guide called Why Name Your Estate an IRA Beneficiary. There's nothing more important than protecting your assets and providing lifelong comfort for your family. Call today at 866-848-5699. That number again is 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online at LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Fall is in full swing. The leaves are changing, the days are getting shorter, and the cold is inching closer. Don't let the prospect of darkness at 4 p.m. get you down, because your next incredible vacation is just a click away. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Enjoy one or all three and experience rich history, world-class cuisine, a wide variety of water sports, and the most pristine beaches anywhere in the world. Go to visitusvi.com and check out the American Caribbean, where you'll find all the information you need to book a trip you'll never forget. Upon arrival, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport required and no money to exchange. Whether it's a romantic getaway or a family vacation, make your plans now to get out of the cold and head to America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip of a lifetime today. That's visitusvi.com.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a guide this month titled Social Security and Taxes. Mike, first question to ask, how is Social Security taxation determined?
Well, it's dependent on all of your total income that you have in retirement when collecting Social Security. And they include the Social Security benefits in that calculation. But, generally speaking, if your only income is coming from Social Security, very little of it, if any, will actually be taxed when you go to file your return. On the other hand, if you have RMDs, maybe you're still working, you have capital gains, then it's possible that up to 85% could be taxed of your Social Security benefit by the federal government.
And in terms of the tax rate that you would pay on that portion that is taxed, how does that work?
Yeah, pretty simply, it's going to knock up against your regular brackets. And so we have the graduated income tax brackets, and you'll include that in the calculation of your adjusted gross income. Obviously, speak with a tax professional in regard to all of that. But then there's on the state level a bunch of differences too, because some states include Social Security income in taxation, others do not. Some include IRA distributions or pension distributions, others do not in their calculations. And so it gets more granular when you get to the state-to-state state level, other than those few states that don't have any income tax.
Our guide this month is titled Social Security and Taxes, and the way to request it is by calling 800-393-4001. There's a whole bunch of this information in there and more that we didn't discuss. Again, this guide is titled Social Security and Taxes, and the number to call to request it is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, all three major averages are off by about 0.25% as investors react to the Consumer Price Index posted this morning, where consumer prices climbed 0.2% in September. While the annual rate of inflation came in at 2.4%, slightly hotter than expectations. Right now, Dow is off by 95 points, S&P 500 down by 15 points, and the NASDAQ off by 61 points, now 0.33% off. Russell 2000 is down nearly 0.75%. 10-year Treasury yield is up by 2 basis points at 4.09%, and crude oil up over 2% this morning, trading just below $75 a barrel. Delta Airlines posted third quarter results ahead of the open, missing on earnings and revenue expectations, where the airline noted the massive CrowdStrike outage back in July weighing on its quarterly results. Delta did say it expects earnings to start growing again on a year-over-year basis in the fourth quarter as airlines scale back growth plans, reducing a supply glut and helping bolster fares. Delta shares currently flat. Domino's also posted earnings this morning, where the pizza operator said U.S. orders continued to grow, but further pared back guidance for store openings amid economic challenges. That stock up by 2%. Meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal reported that TD Bank is expected to pay around $3 billion in fines and have limits on its U.S. business as part of a settlement over a money laundering charge. TD shares down by 6%. Tesla currently down by 1% ahead of its electric vehicle maker, ahead of its anticipated robo-taxi event later today. And tomorrow morning, we'll see third quarter bank earnings from JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, and BlackRock. I'm Tucker Silva, and that's Wall Street Watch.
Mike, yesterday we received the Fed meeting minutes, which are about as exciting as you would expect them to be. Did we glean anything interesting from them despite the lack of excitement?
To me, the most interesting thing was more, diverging opinions than I anticipated. We knew that Michelle Bowman, who was one of the voting members, voted against the 50 basis point hike. It sounds like had Jerome Powell really pushed for the 25 instead, that's what we would have gotten here. Instead, he really led the committee towards that 50 basis points, and members who were on the fence went along with it. And that's about as interesting as I think I got. Did you get anything else additional out of it?
No.
Okay.
No, I really didn't. It's something that, I don't know, for some reason people look forward to seeing these, but I've never found that there's anything
shocking.
Not even shocking, anything actionable within them.
They should have a soap opera writer start writing the meeting minutes instead.
I thought you were going to say, change the name of it from, the Fed meeting minutes to...
Honestly, you could probably toss the entire text into ChatGPT and ask it to rewrite it in the context of a soap opera, and it might be a little bit funny.
I'm going to do that while we cover our next story, which is from MarketWatch, which is... This is what it seems like they did with the headline here. The Federal Reserve's interest rate panic is creating a windfall for retirees. So, couple things. Mike, what is the Federal Reserve's the Federal Reserve's interest rate panic? What is that?
There wasn't one. They're claiming that the 50 basis point cut was some form of panic, and the evidence is in the fact that, a few days later you got a more robust than anticipated jobs report. I think actually the Federal Reserve for doing a full 50 basis point cut, conveyed a complete lack of panic whatsoever in their commentary and in all of their announcements about the 50 basis point cut. And so I saw zero panic from Jerome Powell or anyone else in regard to the 50 basis point cut that they made. But that's what they're calling it, is the 50 basis point panic instead.
So we've got that going on. Mike, I'm looking at it now. The Fed meeting minutes, there's 16 pages, the full version.
Yeah, that's going to be tough for GPT.
It feels like that's just a little long. I'm just going to take like the first few pages or so and see what it spits out here, and we'll see what happens. I do want to talk about, before we do that, I want to talk about the Hurricane Milton impact, just because this is something that I think is far more meaningful than anything Fed-related in the short term here.
Sure.
The first thing that I actually want to talk about on this is I know that oftentimes basically everyone likes to give meteorologists a lot of crap for, being inaccurate. They're like, oh, like you said it was going to rain today and it didn't, or, hey, it's, we were supposed to get a foot of snow and we only got, 5 inches. Like, what gives? I just want to take a second here to point out that the National Hurricane Center, the track that they put up for Milton on Saturday, the 5th, a full 4.5 days before it actually hit, missed the actual landfall of it by 12 miles.
It's incredible.
And I just want to say,
genuinely incredible. Yeah.
I just want to say, like, how lucky we are to actually have such smart people studying this stuff, because being able to project where that hurricane is going to go accurately saved hundreds, if not thousands, of lives.
Sure.
And so I think I just want to acknowledge that before we go further on this.
Okay.
The question now is, how bad is the overall damage going to be, and what is the economic recovery going to look like for basically all of Central Florida? I don't know if you've seen any of the specific statistics on this storm in terms of rainfall and winds and stuff like that, Mike.
I was seeing some of them live, and I've been really hesitant to draw any sorts of conclusions at this stage. It seems far too early, but the general context of what I've been reading has been this was devastating, and had winds not slowed down to the extent they did, could have been a lot worse. But the water damage and everything else, I just genuinely have no idea at this point.
And the fact that this thing ended up going just south of Tampa Bay instead of just north,
right,
was also a huge, a huge break for the most heavily populated area of the West Coast. But I don't know if have you ever been to Dover, Florida, Mike?
No.
Be honest, I didn't even know it existed until this morning.
Sure.
Dover, Florida is a town in Florida that is, I don't know, maybe about 20 miles, 30 miles inland from Tampa. Like directly, you basically had, due east from Tampa, and you get there. The precipitation gauges there recorded 39 inches of rain.
Dear God.
From this. At one point, they were getting 8 inches of rain an hour during the peak. And so, like, you and I both know Florida. Like, anyone who's listening probably knows the topography of Florida. It's low, and basically everything is pretty close to some kind of water, whether it is swamp, lake, ocean. There's not far to go to get to some kind of water. And so the question is ultimately going to be, look, where does all of this water go, and how quickly does it get out of there? Because that whole Tampa through Lakeland, Winter Haven, that whole area is just, basically having to act as a sponge now in order to deal with this. And so I think as far as, how big is the economic disruption, look, you obviously have, the Tampa area, which is most heavily populated, and I know we've all probably seen the pictures from Tropicana Field, which had its roof ripped off overnight. You've got stuff that you have to worry about there, but the inland stuff, just from a rain perspective, seems to have gotten hit harder than anticipated on that front. And so I think trying to figure out when this is all going to, kind of be able to not be resolved, but just when you can even start, rebuilding operations instead of rescue and recovery operations is going to be a real question here, because you can't do anything if there's, 3 feet of water on the ground. There's just not much you can do. The thing that Florida does have going for it, because they deal with these things so much, they they are so well prepared in terms of the immediate response for things like restoring power. I was listening to Governor DeSantis the other day, I think it was yesterday, and they had 50,000 linemen basically all hired and ready to go for any emergency work that was needed in the area. And so it's just something where it's like they've been through this before. They know how to get the quick response that you need. And so that is something that I think potentially bodes well for the rescue and recovery efforts here, as opposed to some of the slowness that we saw in North Carolina, which is not a state that is as prepared to deal with these things, especially inland in the mountains.
Yeah. What I think it's safe to say we don't know at this point is what this all means for Citizens Insurance, what it means for 80% of homeowners in Florida who do not have flood insurance, what it means for that overall market and the rebuilding effort. I don't think anybody has any real genuine sense right now, but suffice to say, in terms of dollar damage, based on the trajectory of this thing, it could have been significantly worse, but it will take a long time to fully understand what the damage was.
Let's take a quick break here. When we return, Delta giving some updated guidance on their earnings, and then we'll talk a little bit about why Wall Street seems to be kind of paralyzed in terms of what it thinks is going to happen with this election that is upcoming now, less than 4 weeks to go. We'll talk a little bit about that when we return.
Breaking business and financial news first throughout the day, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Naming your estate the beneficiary of an IRA or life insurance policy can offer significant benefits to your overall planning. Cushing & Dolan's new monthly guide will help you understand why beneficiary designations are a critically important part of your estate plan, especially if you want your assets to be distributed efficiently and protected from probate or the nursing home. They can also reduce the possibility of creating any income tax issues on your required minimum distributions. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and ask for their new guide called Why Name Your Estate an IRA Beneficiary. There's nothing more important than protecting your assets and providing lifelong comfort for your family. Call today at 866-848-5699. That number again is 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online at LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Last year, we introduced you to Mark Vaughter, CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Mark is a career military man, and we're proud to have him back as the presenting sponsor of the 2024 DAV 5K Boston.
I joined the Marine Corps when I was 18 and served proudly from 1981 to 1984. As CEO of Veterans Development Corporation, my goal is to give back to the veteran community, many of whom are employees of this company. This is one of the reasons I am so excited to be partnering with the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts on this year's DAV 5K Boston. The DAV works tirelessly to support many of our disabled veterans and provide them access to critical services that help them live comfortably every day. I hope to be part of many more success stories of our vets being able to achieve their goals and dreams when their service ends.
Veterans Development Corporation is proud to be the presenting sponsor of this year's DAV 5K, taking place on Saturday, November 9th at Fort Independence in South Boston. To register for this year's race, visit dav5k.boston.
To fully maximize your Social Security benefits, it's important to understand how Social Security may affect your taxes. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and when deciding to collect Social Security benefits, it's essential to consider how those benefits interact with your other income sources, your tax situation, and your long-term financial goals. As an example, if you have tax-free or after-tax options in retirement, you can structure your financial plan to manage your future tax burden. Collecting Social Security too early without careful planning could limit your ability to manage taxes later in life. Our new free guide is called Social Security and Taxes, and it unpacks these issues and more. Get your free copy today by calling 800-393-4001. That's 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services services.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
Text us 617-362-1385 with your comments and questions about today's show, and let us know what you think about the stories we're covering. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, Mike, Delta Airlines, they announced some forward guidance for earnings and revenue. Adjusted earnings is going to be $1.60 to $1.85 a share in the fourth quarter. The midpoint of that is below the $1.78 that was the average of analyst estimates. Delta's revenue growth guidance of 2 to 4% is also below the 4.4% year-over-year guidance that is expected. What are we seeing here? Anything unique to Delta, or is this just, hey, things have been awfully hot in the airline space for the last couple of years, and more signs of maybe just a normalization occurring?
Yeah, I don't see anything unique on the forward-looking stuff. The final tally for the CrowdStrike outage for Delta came in at $385 million in lost revenue, which that one was a little bit unique to Delta. Early trading before markets opened, the stock was down over 5%. It's currently only kind of flat at the moment, and has made up all of its lost ground that it experienced after that CrowdStrike outage. Their stock sold off pretty significantly from May through early August, and has since bounced back a fair bit on, again, I think just normalizing expectations for the year. One question that continues to stand out for me, Ed Bastian, the CEO, and several others, big and small businesses alike, I was speaking to a realtor the other day that said the same thing, is that they're expecting a slowdown and experiencing a slowdown with the upcoming U.S. presidential election. Do people actually stop booking flights because of an election? I can see not buying a house. I don't see putting off a flight booking.
Quite honestly, I don't even understand why buying a house is something you would change.
I don't either, but I can at least understand it more. But yeah, I keep hearing this from CEOs of different companies, like, we're business slowing down ahead of the election. Like, is it, or is business just slowing down?
Right, like, who makes? Well, I'm thinking about buying a new couch. I've really got to wait for the election to see who wins.
I was going to go to Portugal, but, if Harris is president, then I don't think I'm going to... What?
Like, I just don't quite... I don't get it, but that's me. So...
Fall is in full swing, the leaves are changing, the days are getting shorter, and the cold is inching closer. Don't let the prospect of darkness at 4 o'clock get you down, because your next incredible vacation is just a click away. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Enjoy one or all three and experience rich history, world-class cuisine, a wide variety of water sports, and the most pristine beaches anywhere in the world. Go to visitusvi.com and check out the American Caribbean, where you'll find all the information you'll need to book a trip that you'll never forget. Upon arrival, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free, because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport required or money to exchange. Whether it's a romantic getaway or a family vacation, make your plans now to get out of the cold and head to America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip of a lifetime today. That's visitusvi.com.
Mike, I did it. I got the first 6 pages of the FOMC minutes into ChatGPT, and I asked it to recreate it as a snappy, dramatic dialogue between two characters in a soap opera.
Ooh, okay.
So the scene is a luxurious boardroom in the early morning. Veronica, a seasoned FOMC committee member with a sharp mind and a taste for drama, sits across from Jack, a charming but jaded board governor. Veronica sighing. Jack, did you see what the Treasury yields did? They've dropped faster than your last stock pick. I warned you. The market's losing faith, and here we are sitting on a ticking time bomb. Jack, oh please, Veronica. Those yields didn't plummet on their own. Blame the disaster of an employment report. It was weaker than a paper straw in a hurricane. But look, stocks are up. The market's clearly signaling it wants rate cuts, not our endless caution. Veronica raising an eyebrow. Stocks are up, but don't let that fool you. Credit spreads are still tight, almost claustrophobic, and we've barely bounced back from that August madness. And you want to roll the dice? We saw what happened with those speculative positions. Chaos! And now you're ready to gamble again? Gamble? The market implied rate path is already screaming for a cut, Veronica, 100 basis points by year end. Investors are begging for it. They don't want the usual slow dance. They want action. Futures, options, surveys, they're all telling us the same thing. Even the ECB, BOE, and BOC are moving. We can't just sit here watching while the world moves on without us. Veronica, and what, we throw a 50-point cut into the mix and hope for the best? You're forgetting that the real world isn't as eager, Jack. The unemployment rate might be up, but it's steady. Inflation is cooling off, and GDP growth isn't falling off a cliff. You'd rather we follow the markets into freefall just because they're flashing a few red lights? If we don't act, we risk looking like fools in the face of a global shift. Canada, the Eurozone, even Japan! They're all moving. Meanwhile, the dollar's dropping and the repo market is straining at the seams. Face it, Veronica. If we don't get ahead of this, we're going to lose control of the narrative. Veronica, I'm saying what we need is a balanced approach, a measured cut, just enough to signal support, but not so much that we throw the system into chaos. We can't just knee-jerk our way through policy. We have to show we're steady, even if the world around us is anything but. Jack, you're right. But if we misstep, it won't be our names in the headlines, it'll be our legacy. This isn't just a meeting, Veronica. It's the future.
So, all right, Chuck.
I think that's probably actually how the meeting went.
This is silly. It's fun. It's also just continues to shock me every time we use ChatGPT in one way, shape, or form. How long do you realistically think it would have taken you and I to write something like this? We'd have to read through 6 pages of Fed meeting minutes and then go and write something like this.
Hour, maybe an hour and a half.
It took 30 seconds.
It literally was doing this at, I hit the enter button and it already started writing.
It's, again, folks that are listening, if you missed it, we fed the Federal Reserve meeting minutes or part of them into ChatGPT and asked us to basically write a soap opera scene for us to make it a little bit more interesting and compelling. This technology is barely 2 years old, and the use cases are silly, but honestly, I am terrified if I write for soap operas right now. Terrified.
We're going to take a quick break here, but our next episode of As the Federal Reserve Turns will be back in just a couple minutes right after this.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up.
Because we have something better.
Stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit GoRedForWomen.org today to learn more.
Are you retired like me, and you just found out you owe the IRS a ton of money? Well, what would your life be like if they took your retirement savings away from you? They can do it, and your property. If you owe the IRS back taxes or you haven't filed in a while, the Tax Relief Line is here to help you. They can stop the IRS from taking your retirement savings. If you qualify, you could have your tax bill reduced to 0. That's right, if you're retired and you owe the IRS a lot in back taxes, taxes, you could have your entire tax bill reduced to zero due. The IRS has now hired thousands of new employees, so they're ready to come after you. Don't let them take your retirement savings or property. Make this free call now.
800-251-2153. 800-251-2153. 800-251-2153. That's 800-251-2153.
Every single day, more than 2,000 U.S. companies face a cyber threat or attack. The Boston Red Sox in Fenway Park chose Centripetal as their official cyber network security partner to ensure the protection of their network and ballpark. Intelligence is the answer to protecting your network, and Centripetal is the global leader of intelligence-powered cybersecurity. The choice is yours. Are you going to be another one of those attacked companies? Or are you ready to experience a radical new cybersecurity solution? Find out why the Red Sox chose Centripetal at www.centripetal.ai.
This Veterans Day weekend, help honor all who have served this country. Join us on Saturday, November 9th for the 9th Annual Disabled American Veterans 5K Boston, proudly presented by Veterans Development Corporation. It's a run and walk to support the DAV Department of Massachusetts. Saturday, November 9th at DCR's Castle Island in South Boston. Let's honor all who have sacrificed for our freedom. Register or donate now at dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM. Concord, Boston, the Money Matters Radio Network.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke, a partner with the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with a master's in taxation. And today we're talking about choosing beneficiaries for your IRA. Todd, what is the best way to set up designated beneficiaries for qualified plan assets from both a Medicaid and estate tax planning perspective for a married couple?
Generally, for a married couple, you have several choices. The most commonly used one is you're going to make the surviving spouse the designated beneficiary. It doesn't shelter assets from estate taxes. It just passes to the surviving spouse. It avoids probate, and it's probably the best way to go from an income tax perspective, not necessarily an estate tax perspective. Another way would be you could technically name the trust the beneficiary of the IRA when you pass. That at least will help it shelter assets for estate tax purposes and still provide for the surviving spouse. But from a Medicaid perspective, it will then protect it from the nursing home, but it'll take 5 years. Perhaps the newest and best way to do this would be to name the estate the beneficiary, provided you are over age 73 or over. That way, it goes through probate into the will. It is sheltered for estate taxes. It is immediately protected from the cost of long-term care for the surviving spouse, and the surviving spouse has access to it as well.
Educate yourself about the estate planning process. Request your free copy of Todd's brand new guide, Why Name Your Estate an IRA Beneficiary, right now by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request a copy from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Fall is in full swing. The leaves are changing, the days are getting shorter, and the cold is inching closer. Don't let the prospect of darkness at 4 p.m. get you down, because your next incredible vacation is just a click away. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Enjoy one or all three and experience rich history, world-class cuisine, a wide variety of water sports, and the most pristine beaches anywhere in the world. Go to visitusvi.com and check out the American Caribbean, where you'll find all the information you need to book a trip you'll never forget. Upon arrival, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport required and no money to exchange. Whether it's a romantic getaway or a family vacation, make your plans now to get out of the cold and head to America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip of a lifetime today. That's visitusvi.com.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Last year, we introduced you to Mark Vaughter, CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Mark is a career military man, and we're proud to have him back as the presenting sponsor of the 2024 DAV 5K Boston.
I'm a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans, Department of Massachusetts. The DAV does incredible work, and it was one of the first organizations I became familiar with after my military service ended in 1984. As I built my company, Veterans Development Corporation, I did it knowing that I'd be giving back to fellow vets who need jobs, support services, medical supplies, and much more. I work with disabled veterans every day and is one of the key reasons why I'm such a big supporter of Dan Stack and the Disabled American Veterans, Department of Massachusetts, in this year's DAV 5K Boston. Please join me in supporting this tremendous cause by taking part in this year's event or by making a donation to the DAV.
Veterans Development Corporation is proud to be the presenting sponsor of this year's DAV 5K, taking place on Saturday, November 9th at Fort Independence in South Boston. To register for this year's race, visit dav5k.boston.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Charles, Michael, and Thomas with you as we kick off the second hour of our show today. The Dow is off 142 points, about 1/3%. The S&P is down 18 points, about 1/3%. And the NASDAQ down 62 points, also about 1/3%. So how's that for everything moving in the same direction, at least as far as your broad market indices? The 10-year U.S. Treasury up 4.3 basis points to 4.11%. Remember, it was just a few weeks ago that the 10-year Treasury was sitting pretty, comfortably right around, 3.65, 3.66 for, the better part of a week leading into the Federal Reserve meeting where they cut interest rates. And since then, it has been a one-sided move to the upside, with that also carrying through into mortgages, with Mortgage News Daily reporting that the national average for the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage hitting 6.67 yesterday, meaning today, if these numbers hold on the 10-year Treasury, you're probably getting over 6.7 on that 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. So all of that hype from early September about, hey, rates are in the low 6s, you can get into the 5s if you're, buying some points or this and that. Gosh, that sure seems quaint now, doesn't it, Mike?
Yeah, gone in the other direction. I think that's been as surprising as it was that mortgage rates got down to 6.15 for a lot of people, the fact that the Fed cut rates 50 basis points and then rates surged back up to like 6.6 has been equally surprising for people, I think. But again, the rates only moved down because the market knew that the Fed was going to cut those rates. Once they did, and then you got a hotter than expected jobs report, it makes sense for it to bounce back in the other direction.
So you've got that going on with rates and stocks. Oil, West Texas Intermediate, back up $1.77 a barrel, 2.5% to 75.01. This on the back of a couple interviews and of different Israeli cabinet members suggesting that they are nearing the response time for the Iranian ballistic missile attack last week. So you've got oil pushing up again. We've got the AAA national average for gas prices also up another 0.7 cents overnight to 3.21 and 0.2 cents. Still, floating around that 3.20 range at the moment. And we've got gold today up $16.60 an ounce to $26.42 and 60 cents. Mike, anything catching your eye market-wise at this point?
None that you haven't covered, Chuck.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the the optimistic view of the Dallas housing market. This by Connerson from Bloomberg Opinion. It's looking good for home buyers in Dallas and Austin.
Meaning it's looking bad for home sellers in Dallas and Austin.
It's looking bad for, that's the other side of it. And not just for home sellers. I want to talk about home builders also. Some data that I saw yesterday, I just need to pull it up. Here we go. This is from Carl Whitaker at RealPage. And I think some of this may have made its way into here. I'm trying to just see if any of it did. No, I didn't see any of it in here, so I was just making sure I didn't read it in two places at the same time. So in terms of some of these stats on just the Texas housing market in general, in the third quarter, Texas saw 4,200 units started for the quarter for the entire state. In the first quarter of 2023, Austin's metro area saw 5,900 units just on its own. So just in terms of how dramatically housing construction activity is pulled back in Texas, the entire state of Texas had fewer homes started in the third quarter than Austin did alone in the first quarter of 2023. The Houston metro area had 313 new units started in the third quarter. Houston is home to 7.5 million people in its metro area. And they started 313 new units of housing.
Not great, Bob.
Not great. That's the lowest figure dating back to 2000 for a single quarter of housing starts in Houston.
So Texas at this point, Chuck and Tucker, is one of 7 states that has more inventory in September of 2024 than they did in September 2019. Do you want me to just tell you the other 6 states, or do you guys want to try and guess?
Just tell us.
Can I guess?
You can guess.
Jesus.
Florida?
Yes.
Louisiana?
No.
Colorado?
Yes.
The Dakotas?
No.
Nevada?
No.
Wyoming?
No.
Nevada?
No.
Massachusetts?
Definitely not.
Connecticut?
So nationally, total housing inventory is about 3/4 of where it was in September of 2019. 7 states now exceed 2019 levels. They include Tennessee, Texas, Idaho, Florida, Colorado, Utah, and Arizona. Massachusetts and New Hampshire still sitting at about half of the 2019 inventory levels. That's even worse in Connecticut for whatever reason. Maine, Vermont, Rhode Island, from what I've seen, are all similarly in that boat. But, okay, like looking at this, what does this mean to me at least? There continue to be some states where it's beginning to look more like a buyer's market. It's beginning to shift in some of these states that had a boatload of migration to them during the early stages of COVID. You think about that list that I just gave you: Idaho, Florida, Texas, Tennessee, Colorado, Utah, Arizona, right? How many people from California moved to a number of those states? How many people from New York, New Jersey, and Massachusetts moved to Florida during COVID? And you're starting to see some of that tick back in the other direction here. And I look at it as encouraging that, hey, there are now 7 states where we actually have more inventory. The counterpoint is that there's 43 states where there's much less inventory than there was pre-COVID. And with rates now moving back into that 6.5% range, I'm not sure you have anything move. The higher rates are, we're heading to a third spring housing market with rates over 6%. I don't see a real compelling reason for inventory to pop back up on that news, absent a recession.
No, and I think it's something where when you look at what this economy in theory needs, again, I know that everyone got all, hopped up, last week with the jobs report being like, oh, look at these jobs, like this is great, but A, it's 1 month, and B, the extrapolation from some of the underlying metrics doesn't look great over the next 6 months. And so the problem is, in order to avoid, it might be that the case, I'm not saying that this is, I'm saying it might be that where we're heading is, look, if you really want to avoid recession, you got to get mortgage rates down to 5.75, but the only thing that gets rates to 5.75 is a recession.
Right.
That's the danger of where we are right now. Again, I'm not saying that is how it will play out because, look, if there's one thing that this economy's done for the last 2 years, it's surprised to the upside.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been like batting away and parrying all these attempts at, oh, this is going to be the recession. And it said, no. Like, that's not happening. This feels and has felt a little different, but the data the last 6 weeks has been better.
Good. It's been good.
It's been better. So, I don't know. We're going to have to see what happens here. But we've got this period now where the next few months of data is just going to be a mess because of these hurricanes, and so it's hard to say what we're going to be able to glean from it. But, yeah, if you look at some of these housing markets, if you are a seller in them, it's not looking great for you, and it's not looking good. The other problem with markets that get heavily tilted towards buyers is the first thing that you see is just a huge drop in activity. Because sellers say, no, I'm not going to, I'm not ready to cut my price yet.
Which, again, is just crazy to me in the context of pricing in some of these markets having, doubled over the last decade. You talk about Florida, if you've owned that home for a decade, even with the hit you might be taking, you've probably doubled your investment.
So, and the problem is when you have that lack of activity, that sucks a ton out of the economy locally because all the money that's tied up in equity doesn't get released out into the economy the way it normally does, where, hey, 5% of that home equity goes out to the agents, and people spend a couple percent more on new furniture and movers and this and that. And when that stops happening, that's a real problem. And the first place that you see it, I wish someone had an index of this. I wish it was this is the first time I've ever said this in my life, that I wish something was more of a centralized market with less competition. I wish we could get better data on what's going on with moving companies on a regular basis.
Mm.
You know how OpenTable back in 2020 told us about how bookings were changing as COVID was coming through?
Yeah.
I wish there was something similar that could tell us how bookings for movers was changing across the country, because it would that would be such valuable data.
Yeah, I would imagine there's not a single moving company that makes up more than 10% of market share.
I don't even know if there's any to get to that.
Right.
It's because remember, there's a ton of people who just don't even use movers. They move themselves, and so it's tough to glean everything. But if we could have that data, it would be great. Someone probably has it somewhere, I'm sure. Let's take a quick break. After this, we've got trivia, and then we're talking I guess this will be a fun one. It's titled, Groceries Are More Affordable Now Than in 2019. So why are people still so mad about the prices? We'll cover that when we return.
Tune in for Trivia, brought to you by Applebee's. Every day at 11:20 for your chance to win cool prizes. Text us at 617-362-1385 and use keyword Applebee's. Complete rules are available at financialexchangeshow.com. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Fall is in full swing. The leaves are changing, the days are getting shorter, and the cold is inching closer. Don't let the prospect of darkness at 4 p.m. get you down, because your next incredible vacation is just a click away. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Enjoy one or all three and experience rich history, world-class cuisine, a wide variety of water sports, and the most pristine beaches anywhere in the world. Go to visitusvi.com and check out the American Caribbean, where you'll find all the information you need to book a trip you'll never forget. Upon arrival, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport required and no money to exchange. Whether it's a romantic getaway or a family vacation, make your plans now to get out of the cold and head to America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip of a lifetime today. That's visitusvi.com.
Last year, we introduced you to Mark Vaughter, CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Mark is a career military man, and we're proud to have him back as the presenting sponsor of the 2024 DAV 5K Boston.
I'm a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans, Department of Massachusetts. The DAV does incredible work, and it was one of the first organizations I became familiar with after my military service ended in 1984. As I built my company, Veterans Development Corporation, I did it knowing that I'd be giving back to fellow vets who need jobs, support services, medical supplies, and much more. I work with disabled veterans every day and is one of the key reasons why I'm such a big supporter of Dan Stack and the Disabled American Veterans, Department of Massachusetts, in this year's DAV 5K Boston. Please join me in supporting this tremendous cause by taking part in this year's event or by making a donation to the DAV.
Veterans Development Corporation is proud to be the presenting sponsor of this year's DAV 5K, taking place on Saturday, November 9th at Fort Independence in South Boston. To register for this year's race, visit dav5k.boston.
Social Security benefits are a key source of income for many retirees. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Social Security offers monthly payments to eligible workers, their spouses, dependent children, and survivors. But if you aren't fully aware of the factors that can help maximize your benefits, you need to request our new guide called Social Security and Taxes. As retirement approaches, it's very important to understand these factors and develop a well-rounded plan to optimize your benefits. The guide will help you understand how to effectively leverage your Social Security benefits while taking steps to avoid leaving money on the table. Call us at 800-393-4001 and get your free guide today. Again, that free guide is called Social Security and Taxes, and you can get it by calling the Armstrong Advisory Group at 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Naming your estate the beneficiary of an IRA or life insurance policy can offer significant benefits to your overall planning. Cushing & Dolan's new monthly guide will help you understand why beneficiary designations are a critically important part of your estate plan, especially if you want your assets to be distributed efficiently and protected from probate or the nursing home. They can also reduce the possibility of creating any income tax issues on your required minimum distributions. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and ask for their new guide called Why Name Your Estate an IRA Beneficiary. There's nothing more important than protecting your assets and providing lifelong comfort for your family. Call today at 866-848-5699. That number again is 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Miss any of the show? Catch up at your convenience by visiting financialexchangeshow.com and clicking the on-demand icon where you'll find all of our interviews and full shows. This is your home for the latest business and financial news in New England and around the country. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Trivia brought to you by Applebee's. Take your friends or family to any area Applebee's and enjoy half-price late-night appetizers after 9 p.m., including boneless wings, spinach and artichoke dip, and warm pretzels dipped in beer cheese. And don't forget to join Club Applebee's to enjoy exclusive deals and specials. You'll get a free appetizer just for signing up. Now, that's eating good in the neighborhood. Void where prohibited. Dine in only. It's another day of trivia here on the Financial Exchange, and it's been candy trivia here in the month of October, so here we go. According to Monmouth University poll, Skittles is America's fourth favorite Halloween candy. Skittles has a remarkable run since it was introduced to the U.S. back in 1979. That's right, Skittles is not an American creation. The popular candy was introduced in a European country in 1974 and was not introduced to the U.S. until 5 years later. Trivia question today. Which country did Skittles originate in? Once again, which country did Skittles originate in? Be the sixth person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer. And you win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt and be registered to win a $100 gift card to Applebee's. Be sure to include the keyword Applebee's in your text, and we'll give away that Applebee's gift card tomorrow. 617-362-1385. And the sixth correct response will be our winner. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Folks, we had a great live event, live broadcast, the Financial Exchange this Tuesday out at the MGM in Springfield. We've got one more coming up, and space is filling up here for October 24th down in Hyannis. It's at the Doubletree Resort and Suites on Hyannis. Again, it's a live broadcast of this show, the Financial Exchange, on October 24th. Ed Lambert, the host of the XTK Morning Show, will be joining us. We're going to be doing, like I said, a live broadcast followed by an educational lunch with the Armstrong Advisory Group. So come down, check out the show. You get down to the Cape, a beautiful time of year with a little bit less traffic. Come check out a live broadcast of the show, as well as have a free lunch on us after the fact as we talk to you about state of the markets, economy, and heading into fewer than 30 days before the election. And by October 24th, we'll really be closing in there. You can get a bunch more information by going to armstrongadvisory.com/events. But once again, it's a live broadcast of the Financial Exchange on October 24th from the Doubletree Resort and Suites on Hyannis. You can check it out by going to armstrongadvisory.com/events, or you can call us at 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Mike, we now come to this piece from MarketWatch. Groceries are more affordable now than in 2019, so why are people still so mad about prices?
Yeah, just shut up and pay.
So, here's the thing. When we talk about this piece, what it's talking about here is that it takes fewer hours of work to afford a week's worth of groceries now than it did 5 years ago.
That's always how I think about my price of bananas. This is going to cost me 15 minutes.
This is for the average worker. Now, first thing that we need to realize is that, okay, if that's the case for the average worker, there's always, the average is right in the middle, and again, even if we're talking about different ways that we can, look at things statistically, the median is really like the 50th percentile. Look, there are always people where that's not the case for. Just because the average is above doesn't mean that there aren't some, in some cases, a large number of people who are below and might be worse off.
Like half.
Correct. Other things that we need to remember, just when we talk about like basic human psychology, Mike, what was the, just in general, let me ask you this. Are your bananas better now than in 2019?
No.
Is the milk better?
No.
The eggs?
No.
The bread?
Same.
It's the same bread. In some cases, you can actually make the case, hey, it's worse because I'm not getting as much of it, right?
Yeah, you could. Cereal, maybe.
If something stays the same, but you're paying more for it, how does that make you feel?
Mad, Chuck.
It gets me so upset.
It makes me unhappy.
It does. Look, I understand that this is, kind of basic and everything, but what upsets people about inflation is two things. The first is, hey, this is the same thing it was before, and it's more expensive now. I don't like that. And the other is that, look, again, as we talked about at the intro to this, just because the average U.S. worker might have more purchasing power now as it relates to groceries doesn't mean that everyone does. And so just to be like, well, the average is fine, so you shouldn't be upset. I don't know. That's kind of
it's dumb and it's not
inappropriate.
It's dumb and it's not how anyone thinks about anything.
No.
Phrasing your grocery prices in terms of a percentage of your gross income is not useful to anyone.
Well, no, I disagree. That I think it is useful. But I also think that you can't do it based on the national average. That's where my problem is with it.
Sure.
There are plenty of families who have not seen their wages go up by as much as the national average. And so if those families are feeling worse off, well, yes, they can say, yeah, I feel a little bit worse off. Now,
everyone's going to feel a little bit worse off here because, again, the way that we think about prices is not in relation to our income. Some of them, about half of them, truly are going to be worse off based on this.
So I think that this piece, like in terms of like telling people how to feel about what's happened over 5 years, I don't like these ones. Now, I think we can look at where the economy is today and be like, hey, inflation in terms of the rate of change of prices is better. If you're talking about being upset about, how prices have evolved over the last 5 years, sure, I get it. But, hey, inflation is in a much better spot now. The unemployment rate is still low. And so if you're trying to evaluate the economy today, it's tough to evaluate it as anything other than good but potentially degrading.
Sure.
And not degrading in like, hey, I'm being mean to you, but like it's getting worse. That's kind of where the economy is right now. We're concerned about the possibility of recession, but it's been really good recently. And the inflation that we've largely felt in 2021, 22, and even 23 has improved meaningfully, but we can still be upset about the prices.
Agreed.
Quick break here. We got the trivia answer next.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Congress is poised to pass a bill to keep AM radio in cars, but time is running out. 82 million Americans risk losing the news, sports, talk, traffic, and vital emergency information they rely on. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress to pass this bill now.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to STOP.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Let's talk LDL. AKA bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. Because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
Fall is in full swing. The leaves are changing, the days are getting shorter, and the cold is inching closer. Don't let the prospect of darkness at 4 p.m. get you down, because your next incredible vacation is just a click away. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Enjoy one or all three and experience rich history, world-class cuisine, a wide variety of water sports, and the most pristine beaches anywhere in the world. Go to visitusvi.com and check out the American Caribbean, where you'll find all the information you need to book a trip you'll never forget. Upon arrival, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport required and no money to exchange. Whether it's a romantic getaway or a family vacation, make your plans now to get out of the cold and head to America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip of a lifetime today. That's visitusvi.com.
Hi, it's Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a guide available this month titled Social Security and Taxes. Mike, when we talk about incorporating a Social Security strategy into a financial plan, what are some of the considerations?
Well, the consideration that everyone likes to focus on, and for good reason, is, hey, how do I maximize my benefits over my lifetime? If I live to a certain age, when's the best time for me to claim Social Security? Because obviously you have a wide range. You can start as early as 62, as late as age 70, and depending on how long you live, there's a calculation to figure out what would be the most benefits you would receive over your lifetime. But I would argue that for most folks, that's probably not the most important consideration to be making.
What is the most important one?
So I would be focusing on the impact of certain items to the success of your financial plan. So for example, if you look at your plan and say, wow, if I face a lot of inflation in retirement, maybe just because prices in general go up more than I anticipate, then delaying Social Security in order to get a larger base on which COLA is adjusted could be a really positive impact to your plan. On the other hand, if you have a shorter than normal life expectancy or a longer than normal life expectancy, both of those come into play as well when figuring out the appropriate time to claim that Social Security benefit.
Our guide this month is titled Social Security and Taxes, and the number to call to request it is 800-393-4001. Again, the guide that's available this month is called Social Security and Taxes, and the number to call to request it is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Are you retired like me and you just found out you owe the IRS a ton of money? Well, what would your life be like if they took your retirement savings away from you? They can do it, and your property. If you owe the IRS back taxes or you haven't filed in a while, the tax relief line is here to help you. They can stop the IRS from taking your retirement savings. If you qualify, you could have your tax bill reduced to zero. That's right. If you're retired and you owe the IRS a lot in back taxes, you could have your entire tax bill reduced to zero due. The IRS has now hired thousands of new employees, so they're ready to come after you. Don't let them take your retirement savings or property. Make this free call now.
800-251-2153. 800-251-2153. 800-251-2153. That's 800-251-2153.
The Financial Exchange Show podcast drops every day on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit that subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. You're listening to the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Which country did Skittles originate in? That would be the United Kingdom, produced in 1974 by the Wrigley Company. They became available in the U.S. in 1979. The original flavors were orange, strawberry, grape, lemon, and lime. Winner today of the Financial Exchange Show t-shirt was Matt from Warner, New Hampshire. Matt's also registered to win a $100 gift card to Applebee's, which we'll give away tomorrow. And trivia is brought to you by Applebee's. Enjoy half-price late-night appetizers after 9 p.m. And join Club Applebee's to enjoy exclusive deals and specials. You'll get a free appetizer just for signing up. Now, that's eating good in the neighborhood. Void where prohibited. Dine in only.
Mike, this morning we got information from the Social Security Administration on the cost of living adjustment, or COLA, for 2025, and it came in at 2.5%.
That was me trying to do a drum roll. Sorry.
It wasn't good.
It wasn't
that was
very good
awful.
drum roll.
Yeah,
I accidentally was hitting my ring on the desk. It was a whole thing.
Something happened.
And that's exactly where they were predicted to come in. We do not yet have the Medicare premiums for 2025. For anybody that's not collecting Social Security, you might be unfamiliar, but your Medicare premiums usually get deducted right out of your Social Security, which affects how much of that increase you actually see in your bank account at the end of the day. But yeah, we are likely, based on where inflation is right now at least, heading towards a period of time that was probably pretty similar to the 2010s, when COLAs were relatively muted and a lot of them ended up getting eaten up by Medicare cost increases. So we'll see where that comes in. I think the average, the range that I've seen for Medicare Part B premium increases was somewhere in the $10 a month range, up to the $185 range from where we are now, and those I think have to be released in the next 5 days, so we should know pretty soon where that lands. But the days of the big 7-8% increases on Social Security seem to be behind us for now.
Well, and quite honestly, you don't want those.
Right, it's telling you something pretty terrible about the state of the economy if that's happening.
Right, those mean that inflation has been really, really high. Like, everyone's like, yeah, I'd love like a 7% cost of living adjustment. Well, the way that you get there is you have the cost of living actually go up by 7% in a year.
Yeah.
So you'd prefer not to see that, all things being equal. Again, I'm looking just at the chart of where these have been historically. Aside from, the late 70s, early 80s, and a couple, outliers here, 1991 after, the Gulf War, and 2009 when oil prices had spiked in 2008, if you remember. That was back when oil got up to $150 a barrel. Aside from those, few outliers, generally the cost of living adjustment has been somewhere between 2% and 4%.
Yeah.
Now, you did have, after 2009, this was one of those, I just like looking at the history of this because it reminds me of some of the stuff that we went through. 2009, you saw a 5.8% cost of living adjustment because, remember, oil prices were high through the end of the summer of 2008, which is when the key measurement takes place. But then the economy fell off a cliff. And so for 2010 and 2011, there was no cost of living adjustment.
Right.
Because the CPI that they use in order to measure this, it did not get back above those 2008 levels until 2011. And so you had 2 straight years in the early 2010s where you did not have a cost of living adjustment. You also had that happen in 2016 as well, that on the back of oil prices falling off a cliff in 2015. And so, again, other than these few outliers, generally, somewhere between 2% and 4% is where that cost of living adjustment is landed, and I think that's if you're trying to plan going forward, I think that's a nice baseline that you can use for future years, even if you're not quite sure, where it's going to end up.
By the way, what is a reasonable complaint on the part of seniors is that, quite frankly, their prices are not all that dictated by the price of oil, whereas medical costs have been, on the rise pretty significantly over the last few decades. And I remember that being a big conversation, like 2010s. Oh, great, gas prices fell. I barely drive, but the cost of a nurse to come into my home a few hours a week is skyrocketing, and my Social Security is going nowhere. Reasonable concern and complaint as far as I'm concerned.
There has to be someone out there that's actually happy with the cost of living adjustment they get, though, right? There's got to be at least one person.
Yeah, somewhere.
Again, if we're talking about averages, yes, there are those, there are groups of people that, typically have their costs go up more than what that average is, but there also are people that have their costs go up less.
Mm-hmm. True.
We just never hear from them, I guess.
No, we like to complain. Myself included.
I
don't know what I would do if I couldn't complain about the weather.
Isn't that why we do this show?
Yeah.
Just to get it all out there, right? That's why I do, at least. Let's talk a little bit about junk bonds. Mike, there's a piece in Barron's. It's titled "Own Junk in Your Retirement Portfolio, Not as Crazy as It Sounds." And what it's talking about, junk bonds are low-quality bonds that have a higher risk of default than investment-grade bonds. And they're called junk because they're not as good. It's nothing crazy there. What you get for buying junk is typically a higher yield than what you get on investment grade bonds. And this piece talks about, hey, it's not necessarily a bad thing to have something like this in a retirement portfolio, but I think when we talk about owning junk bonds, I think one of the things that you have to understand is, the risk of owning a single one is incredibly high unless you are actually, someone who has, experience studying what causes individual companies to default. Generally, I would say unless you have a ton of experience, buying individual junk bonds for yourself is about as risky as it can get out there in the fixed income world. And when it comes to how junk bonds perform in recessions and downturns in areas of concern, they behave much more like equities than they do bonds, which typically offer you a little bit more stability and in some cases can even appreciate in value during a time of economic concern.
Now, the point is made here that junk bonds, I don't know what yield they're using here, but as of the time of writing this, junk bonds were yielding 7.2%, which is more than double the rate of the broader U.S. bond market. They're measuring that at 3.4%. I'm not sure where on the yield curve they're measuring that because the 10 years up over 4 at this point in time. But I think contextually, you should also, if you're considering this asset class, understand the historical spread between those things. And it varies, but that's the way to look at it is, hey, how much more are junk bonds paying compared to what's generally considered the risk-free rate of return, i.e. treasuries? And right now, it's not at all-time lows, but it's pretty darn low. It's pretty darn low in terms of a difference between what you get from a junk bond versus what you get from a treasury. Meaning, I guess, one of the potential meanings here being if the economy deteriorates and some of those companies start defaulting, you could be not really getting paid that premium that you were hoping for.
So, again, I think ultimately each individual investor needs to, make their decisions on these things based on their risk tolerance and understanding. But look, every investment in an investment portfolio, you need to understand the role that it's playing and why you're doing it. If you simply are looking at the yield on junk bonds and you're like, oh, look at these, they're paying, north of 7% or north of 8% or whatever it is on any particular day. Okay, ask yourself why they are.
Yeah, I would go. I'm going to cite a common one that I hear. Oh, Mike or whoever, I heard about this company or this holding on CNBC or Bloomberg. The person on there was really bullish about it, and it's yielding 7%. What do you think? My very first question to you is going to be, what does it do? And if you cannot answer what does it do, then you have no business investing in it. That should go without saying, but I can't tell you how many times I have that exact same conversation. What does the company do? Oh, I have no idea.
The second
it sells cigarettes to babies. Like, oh, okay, got it. Maybe we should look into that a little bit.
The second question, and I know this is going to sound weird, but the second question is, why does it do? Like, okay, now that you know what it does, like, why do you think they have any edge in doing what they do? What makes them better than everyone else?
Sure.
And again, these are just like basic building blocks that you need to be asking as you're looking at different potential investments. But if you can't answer the what and why,
a chart that somebody puts on Bloomberg is not a good enough reason to invest in something.
No, I've said it over and over again. If your investment strategy is based on what you read in publications that are publicly available, you have no alpha. Anything that becomes public information cannot be alpha, because once everyone knows it, that's it. Like that's it. It's gone. Alpha is private information, not material, non-public information, which is illegal, but private information. Hey, I built this model that analyzes whether or not companies default, and it's more accurate than the rating agencies. Am I going to tell everyone about it? No, because if I do that, then everyone will know how to do this and I won't have any edge. The edge is the stuff that you keep to yourself. A portfolio based on, well, I read it in Barron's, or I read it on CNBC, or I read it in the Wall Street Journal,
is not likely to be successful.
Especially, look, we cover stuff that the Wall Street Journal covers 2 weeks before they do. Happens a lot.
Yep.
I'm not saying that we're first. Like, we read it somewhere too. So you have to remember, there's always someone that's there first, and if your whole strategy is, well, I'm doing what, they wrote in,
Too late.
Let's take a quick break here. When we return, we'll do a little bit of Stack Roulette.
The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Like our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Your business tip of the day is brought to you by SAB Solutions Incorporated, serving businesses with real-time inventory management. Visit them online at sabsolutionsma.com. Here's General Sales Manager Toby Burrell.
One of the most exciting parts of my job is to evaluate a company's needs. We do a comprehensive analysis before we offer a specific plan. Recently, we were contacted by a billion-dollar global electrical contractor who had an urgent tracking issue that was affecting both incoming and outgoing products. We implemented a cloud-based stockroom tracking application that included mobile computers and that allowed the company's management's visibility into all available materials for their respective requirements. This solution was so successful that we have provided it to additional clients.
Let SAB Solutions be your trusted advisor when it comes to managing your inventory. Clients have relied on their expertise for more than 15 years, and they can help you too. Visit sabsolutionsma.com for more information. That's sabsolutionsma.com.
Last year, we introduced you to Mark Vaughter, CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Mark is a career military man, and we're proud to have him back as the presenting sponsor of the 2024 DAV 5K Boston.
I'm a proud member of a military family, including my father, Victor, and my brother Timmy. Serving my country was one of the greatest achievements of my life, and it's why I choose to give back to this special community. My father built Veterans Development Corporation, and I am honored to continue his legacy of working to help many disabled veterans and their families. It also gives me great pleasure to once again be the presenting sponsor of this year's DAV 5K Boston. I hope that by sharing my story, many other disabled veterans will be able to reach their goals once they conclude their service.
Veterans Development Corporation is proud to be the presenting sponsor of this year's DAV 5K, taking place on Saturday, November 9th at Fort Independence in South Boston. To register for this year's race, visit dav5k.boston.
Fall is in full swing. The leaves are changing, the days are getting shorter, and the cold is inching closer. Don't let the prospect of darkness at 4 p.m. get you down, because your next incredible vacation is just a click away. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Enjoy one or all three and experience rich history, world-class cuisine, a wide variety of water sports, and the most pristine beaches anywhere in the world. Go to visitusvi.com and check out the American Caribbean, where you'll find all the information you need to book a trip you'll never forget. Upon arrival, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport required and no money to exchange. Whether it's a romantic getaway or a family vacation, make your plans now to get out of the cold and head to America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip of a lifetime today. That's visitusvi.com.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, the grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
Miss any of the show? The Financial Exchange Show podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you in part by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Summer's over, so now's the time to start looking at a fabulous holiday vacation, and there's no better place than the U.S. Virgin Islands. Enjoy perfect weather, world-class dining, incredible beaches, and a vibrant nightlife. No passport is needed, and there's no money to exchange. Take your next vacation in America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. Go to visitusvi.com to book your trip. That's visitusvi.com.
Mike, what do you have for the roulette of the stack today?
Chuck, I smell a rat. If anybody hasn't seen the stories of FedEx packages getting lifted by porch pirates, specifically going after AT&T iPhones, I've seen videos of this actually right here in Needham, Massachusetts. New York, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Virginia, Michigan, Georgia, Florida, and Texas have all submitted doorbell videos of the same thing. Basic premise here, a FedEx driver drops off a box with an iPhone from AT&T. Then a person walks up, sometimes wearing his Amazon delivery vest, and takes the package almost immediately. They caught 2 people down in Texas who were doing this, who had tracking information from FedEx detailing where these phones were being delivered. So I don't know where the problem is, but very obviously someone is getting iPhone tracking information from, it can only be really one of 2 places, either AT&T or FedEx. I don't think Apple would have any of the data because these are phones being bought by AT&T from AT&T. And somehow it's getting leaked and people are getting it, and it is I mean, one, disheartening, frustrating, annoying for the customer, annoying for FedEx, for AT&T, but also like potentially dangerous, right? You think about the confrontations that are eventually going to happen here, and somebody's going to eventually get hurt here. I don't know can it be anything else other than a leak? A hack?
I have no idea. I don't know how like the tracking numbers for FedEx are generated. I don't know if it's
certainly not public information, I guess would be my point here, because that would be outrageously dangerous to just have tracking numbers with addresses all over them and names. And so somewhere someone is getting this stuff, and it's kind of been proven out because it's literally happening within moments of the packages being dropped off.
Yeah, Look, I don't have any answer for it. I don't know how and why it's happening. The easy way to stop this is to require signature for delivery.
Seems pretty easy.
Like it's not hard.
It's a $1,000, $1,000 to $2,000 computer that goes in your pocket. Like, I would want a signature.
I mean, well, here's the catch-22 on this. We're ordering more stuff for delivery because we're not home and we're too busy and this and that. So it's like, oh no, sorry, I'm working. I can't sign for it. Well, okay, like we got to figure something out that's better than this. Because this is the whole problem, is that we're just delivering packages when no one's home. And so, like, this is why it happens. If you start delivering packages when people are home and having them come to the door to take them inside, then you don't have any more porch pirates because there's nothing sitting outside.
Just a rather silly issue.
Well,
if somebody wants to steal my razor blades, go for it. But if I'm getting a $1,200 phone delivered, ask for my signature. Or deliver it somewhere else.
Yeah, it would seem to me that's kind of the least that you can do on.
But also, AT&T and FedEx find out who is leaking your information to porch pirates and make sure that stuff doesn't happen, because that's, again, as annoying as like we could solve these problems other ways, but eventually someone's going to get hurt with this. Somebody's going to beat the living piss out of somebody, and it's going to be bad.
What's the remedy on this? Like, if let's say your phone is stolen off your porch, does AT&T automatically send you a new one? Do you have to provide evidence? Do you have to buy a new one? Like, what's the process?
That's a great question. I mean, I would hope that either FedEx or AT&T is responsible for this.
Like, you would think so. If you're not going to require signature, then someone has to guarantee that product getting there.
Yeah, I would imagine there's some insurance picking this up that is rather frustrated by the whole process.
The insurance carriers are getting hit with big losses.
Yeah.
It's not actually hurricanes, it's porch pirates.
No, it's hurricanes.
It's hurricanes and wildfires, yeah. Let's see. Amazon announced that they are testing adding miniature warehouses, so like ant-sized, to Whole Foods supermarkets. Okay, not ant-sized. And what they are trying to do with this is
compete with Walmart.
Is that what this is? Does Walmart do this right now?
No, I mean, I just think Walmart, you've got a scenario where you can go in, you can buy tires and groceries, or whatever else it might be. And so, to me, this is, Amazon's version of this. I don't know how it'll work. It seems intriguing to me.
It's basically saying, look, you can order something on Amazon, and when you get your food at Whole Foods, you can pick up that Amazon order there, too.
I like it.
Kind of interesting.
Yeah,
kind of interesting.
It's innovative. I like it. I don't know what it really looks like to go to a Whole Foods with an Amazon warehouse attached to the back of it. Like, that's going to be a whole logistical thing to have to figure out. And I would imagine there's not a lot of Whole Foods. Like, I think about the Whole Foods that I go to every once in a while. You ain't going to fit a parking lot that's going to be able to constantly fit 18-wheelers in and out of it. So I don't know how that's going to work. But logistically, if you can find the right locations for this and put the things together, it's been Walmart's strategy. It's been fairly successful in terms of, being able to both deliver to home as well as pick up. And I can see it being helpful for Amazon too. Walmart, I just think, has the advantage of I can actually browse at a Walmart. I can't do that in Amazon.
Mike, you staying up for the Tesla Robotaxi event tonight?
No, definitely not.
It's 7 p.m. Pacific time. Like, what? Talk about, like, you... I feel like we're going to be underwhelmed because...
Drop the ball on that one.
Wouldn't you do it at noon if it was something you wanted everyone to see? I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see you tomorrow. We'll recap that and more on the Financial Exchange.